Well, I think we're going to get started. I'm John Corkery. I'm Dean of John Marshall. Very pleased to have this opportunity to address you for this Kratovil Conference. It's hard to believe that it is the 12th Kratovil Conference here at John Marshall. I remember when Bob Kratovil was basically the Supreme Court over at the title company. If you had a question that came up and you couldn't figure it out, or they couldn't figure it out, you went to Bob, or they went to Bob, and if Bob blessed the answer, then that was the answer. And then I, of course, remember Bob for many years when he was teaching here. If you knew Bob very well, he always had this amazing bow tie that he wore all the times, and it was terrific. If you would come back here in February, we'll have a whole new front door ready for you. So hope you can come back and see that. First of all, I would like to welcome all of you here to the conference. I know many of you have come from outside the city, and we're going to have a conference that are going to focus on important national issues. Now, I know the Quiet Revolution report was written 40 years ago, and I'm assured that it still serves as an important beginning of the movement towards environmentalism and stability and other broad public goals. Today, we are fortunate to have many who were involved in the writing of that Quiet Revolution with us. And as in prior Kratovil conferences on real estate law and practice, this one we are collaborating with the Center for Real Estate Law in publishing a special symposium issue emanating from this conference. So there will be some law review papers generated from this, and we are very much looking forward to that. I would like to recognize our sponsors and donors, and it says here their names are up on the screen, but I don't see them. Maybe it's me. My eyes are getting bad, but it looks a little, by God, and there they are. Well, please accept my thanks on behalf of the sponsors. I will just read them. Clarion, New Media, Lambda Alpha, International Land and Economics Foundation, the Alvin Baum Family Fund, which has been a great supporter of the John Marshall Law School. Of course, the Chicago Title Insurance Company, where Bob worked. Holland and Knight, the law firm. Clarion, Hugendorn and Talbot, another fine law firm, whose services I might add I have used personally and can vouch for them. First Gate Insurance Management, Margaret Gallagher Associates, Victoria and Robert Burgle, William K. Riley, Janet Johnson, partner at Schiff Harden LLP, Gregory Spitzer, partner at Paul Hastings. So I've taken up enough of your time. Thank you so much for coming to this conference. I think it's going to be a great day. And right now I'm going to turn the program over to the director of our real estate program, Celeste Hammond. Thank you.
Thanks, Dean. I want to start by thanking a whole bunch of people who made this conference possible. Events management headed by Eleanor Cannon and her staff. Institutional affairs, John McNamara and his staff for producing, I thought was a really kind of creative brochure and helping us to market the conference. John Lee and the John Marshall Law School Foundation, who helped us in securing all these sponsorships. And my center staff, Heather Harper and John Estrada, very important here. Finally, the John Marshall Law Review, which will, as the Dean mentioned, publish a special symposium issue of the articles that come from this conference, especially Kristen Zaharsky, the editor-in-chief, and Lucas Walker, who is the executive lead articles editor. The sponsors, well, I thought they were behind me too, but they're on the screen, or they were on the screen behind me, and they're also mentioned in the CLE materials. They make it possible for us to accomplish the program with ease and grace, to subsidize the cost so that we could keep the registration fee low, and to bring in so many excellent speakers from outside the region. The participants, you the audience, contribute to this vital conference on an important issue. As I reviewed our registrations, I was delighted to note that in addition to our real estate community at the law school, our alumni, our adjunct faculty, and our advisory board, we have a good group from public officials from Chicago and surrounding counties. I met some people from Kankakee. We're glad to have you with us. And we've got a lot of members of the American Planning Association, which with Lambda Alpha International helped us publicize the event. You know, one of the center's main functions is to provide an education to those who want to be the most accomplished commercial real estate professionals in the country. And our graduates know the substantive law, and they also have acquired the skills which they need to work in this transactional area of the practice of law. Our lawyer students collaborate with business professionals in the MS program, which is set up uniquely for non-attorneys, and they consider legal risks associated with doing these deals. This educational part of our mission is met by the courses we offer, and our prominent adjunct faculty works in collaboration with the professors, including myself, to offer practical courses that focus both on the substantive law and on the skills that the attorneys would need. We are proud of over 250 alumni from all of these programs, and they're all over the country too. We have left center brochures out on the tables in the hall in case you are interested in joining us as a student or know someone who would benefit from what we have to offer. The second part of our mission is to produce research and scholarship on issues important to the real estate industry. Nationally, the Kratovil Conference is the only one involving interaction between scholars, academics, and practitioners in serious topics of concern to the industry. This is the 12th Kratovil Conference, as the Dean mentioned. We started in 1993 with a conference on investment in real estate in developing countries, focusing on South Africa, China, and Eastern Europe. And as in the beginning, we continue to have support of the John Marshall Law Review. They publish the articles which preserve the thinking of the conference and provide a wider distribution than we could have just with those of you who are able to join us. The period, 40 years ago, when I started teaching at John Marshall, and it wasn't 40 years ago, but I became aware quickly of the rich developments in property law that seemed to begin in the late 60s and early 1970s. From the changes in the residential landlord-tenant law following the civil rights movement, especially the march by Dr. Martin Luther King for housing, which occurred in Chicago, to the questions about dealing with the new spirit of environmentalism with the publication of Christopher Stone's book, Should Trees Have Standing, in 1972. That book has been described as the rallying cry for the environmental movement. We now recognize that period as important in the basic development of property law. And in the same era, two young associates at the Chicago law firm of Ross and Hardy's prepared a report for the President's Council on Environmental Quality. That report described in great detail the innovative land use regulation in 9 states that returned the regulation of land to a regional or state level in competition with what had become a local land use pattern. The report concluded that given an increasingly limited supply of land and the move toward urbanism, there was, and now I'll quote, a growing awareness on the part of both local and statewide interests that states, not local governments, are the only existing political entities capable of devising innovative techniques and governmental structures to solve the problems such as pollution, destruction of fragile natural resources, the shortage of decent housing, and many other problems which are now widely recognized as simply beyond the capacity of local governments acting alone, end quote. That's from the introduction to the Quiet Revolution. And by the way, you can get a free copy of the Quiet Revolution, which is this thick, on the center's website. No copyright protections there, so feel free to take it. We're privileged to have 2 authors with us today in celebration of the 40th anniversary of the Quiet Revolution. David Callies is now the Kudo Professor at the University of Hawaii Law School. David has become an internationally recognized author and educator in land use and state and local government. I thank David for these flowers. Fred Bosselman is retiring from IIT Kent Law School. He taught there for 20 years after a long career as an attorney. Professor Bosselman has specialized in energy and environmental law. Both of them have understood the implications of the Quiet Revolution and the prominence of the Quiet Revolution in discussions about the proper role for local versus state and regional and even national rules controlling the use of land. So today's agenda sort of fell into place. Panel 1 will examine what the Quiet Revolution really was, with David Callies moderating. Speakers who have knowledge of the places where the Quiet Revolution seems to have prevailed will provide a selective retrospective. At lunch, I encourage you to mingle with those speakers whom you do not know yet. We have set up tables on the 3rd floor so that the audience can select a seat near one of our speakers. And please feel free to engage them in the informal discussion on aspects of the Quiet Revolutions where you have a special interest. After lunch, the second panel will be moderated by my colleague, Professor Susan Connor, who specializes in land use and zoning and who has become very familiar with the issues of local versus regional land use control. The second panel will focus on the impact of the Quiet Revolution in Chicago and in the Midwest. Now, some would say that the proliferation of local governments, especially in Chicago, burdens the process of achieving public policy goals like environmentalism and sustainability. Perhaps panel 2 will give us some suggestions for a way to resolve that. Finally, the third panel will look forward. Speakers will consider what lessons the Quiet Revolution has taught and will examine what the future of land use regulation can bring. Professor Bosselman will serve as the moderator from the backdrop of his next article that recommends global land use control. He's laughing in the back, to save the planet. Professor Bosselman and panel 3 will tell us their ideas for shaping land regulation by means of a regional, statewide, and in some cases even a national approach. Please look to our CLE materials for more information about all of the speakers and for their submissions to help you understand the issues that they will be identifying. There will be several Q&A periods and breaks. Please feel free to make requests of myself or my staff. We look forward to having you spend a very worthwhile Kratovil day with us, and we are very grateful for your joining us. And without further ado, Professor Callies.